Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to begin this show by reading you a little bit about my guest today. My guest today, I have only one phrase for her. She is the 21-22 artist in residence at Hibernian Hall. I am Elaine Hall-Corbin, your host. Welcome to Artists of Color. And today, my guest is Mary McCullough. Hello, how are you? And I'm glad you're here.
Honored to be here with you today.
Yeah, I am too. It was funny because when we saw each other at Hibernian Hall last Saturday, I said, why not? Let me just see if she can do this. And I was so glad and so happy that you accepted. I'm so many things I want to ask you. I guess I want to begin with, how long have you been writing?
I have been writing since 7th grade.
Okay.
Now that doesn't mean I've been public with my writing for that long, but in 7th grade, my English teacher gave us an assignment to write something about our family, or some member of our family, and I was the older sister of a brother who was 8 years younger than me, and he was filled with all sorts of antics that I thought were extremely funny. Some of them kind of sad because he would get punished for them, but I loved him dearly. So I wrote a very short piece about him for my 7th grade English teacher, and she loved it. Of course, she made zillions of corrections. She was my English teacher. And all through high school, I continued. She stayed my English teacher, and I became editor of my high school newspaper and wrote a column for the town that I was growing up in for the local newspaper about what was happening at the black high school. I went to segregated schools.
Oh, okay. Where were you born? Where did you come from?
I was born in southwestern Virginia, on the border almost of North Carolina, in a very small town.
Very small, less than 5,000?
Oh, yeah, yes, I think so, yeah.
Okay. Oh my. Did you like growing up there? Did you like growing up there?
Did I like growing up there? I don't think I knew anything differently. Okay. It was a town, and I lived in it, and I lived with my family, a large family. Everyone on my street on either side on this dirt road were members of my family. They were my aunties and my cousins, and I went to a local church. I mean, it was a small, very small, insular, segregated community. I didn't know anything different. So I guess I liked it. I write about it a lot.
I was going to ask you, did you write?
Yes, I write about it. I write about people that I remember growing up, and when I write, I hear the rhythm of their words. Yes. So I try to capture that in everything that I'm writing when I tell a story, especially about black people. I hear those voices and the cadence and the music of the way they spoke.
Okay. It's very interesting that you expressing that is because, I don't know, have you read Thresh and Hold? She did I can't remember her name. Castles of Our Skins brought her in. She did a piece down at the Box Theater. Mm-hmm. And she did a number of readings. And she talked about rhythm and music from, the rhythm of the voices of the people that she grew up with. And that reminded me of that. And when you said that, I said, oh, okay. Very interesting. I'm probably going to go here, there, and everywhere because there are so many things I want to ask you about.
Okay.
And one of those things was, when did you do your first play?
My first play that I wrote?
That you wrote.
Ah, okay. I think Twilight Time, which is a short play, 10 minutes in length, about a relationship between a white woman employer and the death of her black maid, and the confrontation that takes place between her and the daughter of the maid.
Oh.
I think that was my first play. It got toured a bit. I think Our Place Theater, Jackie Parker's Our Place Theater, did it in one of the African American theater festivals.
Yes.
And the theater company, or performing, I guess, traveling women's company that I co-founded with some other women, toured it. And we took that piece to China.
You did?
As an NGO group, we took it to Beijing in 1995. So that was one of my first plays. I also toured it at Oberlin College. So it's been around for a while, and I think that was my first really what I think play that worked.
It was funny because you're talking about, and we talked about the Our Place Theater Company, the African American festival that they used to do every year. That's where I first met you.
Ah.
Yes, I used to go believe it or not, the first year that they did it, that I found out about it, and I've known Jackie for a minute, she opened up on my birthday.
Oh, wow. That's
and
great.
And we had this conversation. She says, just be down there. You're going to be fine. Just come on. And so I went to the very first theater festival that when they did, I was like very excited, very happy, knowing that, you know, black plays, black writers were being brought out into the community and out into the limelight in the way that she was doing it, because everyone that was in it, from the actors, you know, the cast, everybody that did the stage hands, directors, all, you know, everybody were people of color.
Yeah, yeah.
And to me, that's what it was all about. Yeah. But I went for many, many years, and then all of a sudden it wasn't there anymore.
No, I think it's costly to do theater.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if that's why Jackie isn't doing the festival, but she's still here. She's still a treasure in this community, and very supportive of artists.
Yeah, so. She really is. She really is. I had her on my show. We're going to get on again because her and I have been talking about getting together and doing a short piece on my show.
Great.
So that's one of the things we've been talking about.
Great.
She's always running around. Your themes, what are your themes? When you write, do you have themes, and how do you bring those themes into your writings?
Well, I think it depends on what's happening at the moment in the world. Sometimes there are issues that you feel like you want to explore by developing characters who talk about that particular issue. I wrote a play called Dust, which came out of my angst and upsetness around the Trump campaign and Trump becoming president. So I had to do something with that energy that I was feeling.
I think we all were.
So I wrote my one and only, I don't think I have any others, play, Dust, with a white woman protagonist who I thought, in terms of, you know, what I put into it, thought a lot in terms of the way Trump and some of his followers think. I had to examine that issue. Another play, Smoked Oysters, which I think you're familiar with, came about because I heard two people speaking. I don't mean in reality, I heard them in my head.
Okay.
And they were bickering.
Uh-oh.
And they were bickering over how this man wanted smoked oysters and his wife wasn't going to buy them. So I think what I did is I went to my computer and I said, what do they want with me? Okay, I'll put down what they're saying. So I wrote about 5 pages of dialogue, and I sort of put it aside, and I didn't think any more about it. And it's like, I guess some people call it their muse.
Yes.
They came back, and they wouldn't leave me alone.
Yes.
And I would say, well, what do you want?
What are you doing with this?
What do you want? What are you trying to tell me? So that's, became Smoked Oysters, the complete play, which, did you see it at Hibernian Hall? Or
No, I
No?
think I saw it.
Eggleston?
Well, yeah, that's where I saw it.
Anyway, so that came about that way. I'm working on a play now at Hibernian Hall with Jackie,
Yeah.
and there are 2 other lovely Black women playwrights in this workshop with me, that sort of looks at what happens to 5 women when Brown versus the Board of Education finally gets to their small town, and the schools are going to integrate in one way or another. And there's the protagonist is anti-integration.
Okay.
Because they would bring about too much change.
And they don't want that.
And her sister is pro-integration. She's the principal of a school. So that particular play is going to be read at Hibernian Hall on December 5th. And I'm really excited about these 5 Black women in their struggle to face what's coming at them.
I will be there.
Yeah. So a play comes about in a lot of different ways. Could be a voice you hear. It could be an issue in the society that you want to examine and take on through developing characters who talk about it. Or it could be a song you hear, or someone speaking.
And
all different ways,
yes.
all kinds of ways that the writing comes to you. So,
because it's interesting because we're talking about smoked oysters, and we just talked about that, and there were others, and I was doing doing some research on you because I wanted to be totally prepared, and you said you tend to write about women and Black people in particular because you want to explore the complexity of who we are as African Americans.
Yes. It's very important to me as an African American female writer to develop the story and bring the narrative forward, because I think so much of our history, so many of our stories haven't been told.
Right.
And I like telling stories about just ordinary people in everyday life and the complexities of the kinds of things that they overcome. Because I think they're heroes. They're our heroes. They're our parents. They're our families. And every once in a while there may be some big issue that comes into play, and they comment on it or decide how they're going to deal with it or not deal with it. So I write mostly, except for that dust play, about Black people. And I'm particularly interested in the story of women. I think that comes from my mother and her sisters, because I grew up in a community of women. I often wonder, where were the men? I guess they were off working.
They were somewhere.
They were there, but they weren't as close as the women were. And the children, the women and the children.
Exactly.
So, and I think that those stories need to come to the center stage be taken from the margins and brought to center stage.
All right, I can't wait to see this play. In about a minute or so here, we're talking about community. I would like you to do a reading for us. And do you know which one I would like you to do first?
Yes, I think I know which one you want me to do. It's the piece that I read at Hibernian Hall at the brunch for the Friends of Hibernian Hall on Saturday.
And I became a friend of Hibernian Hall finally. Good. Now, yes, go ahead. I can't wait. I want my audience to hear. Again, I'm Elaine Hall-Corbin. I'm your host. This is Artists of Color. Thank you for being with us today. My guest, Mary McCullough, is going to be doing a reading for us. Thank you.
Oh, you're most welcome, and thank you. This is a poem that I wrote many years ago that was published in the Ibsen Street Poetry magazine. The title is I Am What I Am. I am Africa's stolen black gold, a Cherokee outlaw gone missing, plantation trash trying to get by, regret. I am what I am. I'm a jealous, crippled dog, a crappy, snappy babe in disguise, a mother, a daughter, somebody's wife, a broad, a maid, a woman who is too smart, too dumb, too bold, too pretty, too ugly, too skinny, too fat, too young, too old. I am Monday's wash day blues, black roots burning and blowing smoke on your soul. I am your mind's chaos getting cold. I am alone and I'm scared and death is coming soon. So I'm running, running, running to the moon. I am scandal and lying and Sunday morning coffee and high octane gas. I am words you can't define or explain. I am left, lost and found, loved and discarded. I am the laughter you can hold back in that place, in that time when laughter faces disgrace. I am shade and pride and one blessed summer blueberry pie in winter. I am peaches pickled in a jar, cloves on the ham, the whole pecan pie. I am the warmth in your bed, the face in the mirror, the can you can't open. I am the song in your heart that you want to sing and sometimes can't. I am saint and sinner. I am what I am.
I love that. I love that when you first read it, that I heard it on Saturday, and I'm trying to pick through all the things that you were saying and all the I want to say antonyms, the verbs, the nouns, all of those things that you were, your expression. Why that? Why did you write that poem?
I think it came from a feeling. It may have been an exercise at some point. Teachers often ask people to write a poem that expresses who you are.
Yes.
I heard about that later after I had written it, and I thought, oh, I've already written that poem. And also, again, it's music. It's the sounds that I hear, the sound of the words, the way it rhymes, the way it moves. And it's not just me. It's every woman.
Yes.
It's every woman. We are those things.
Thank you for that explanation. We're going to take a break, and we'll be right back. Again, I'm Elaine Hall-Corbin, your host. This is Artists of Color, and we will be right back.
What's more dangerous? A man who isn't afraid of death, or one who's found everything to live for? I asked him if he was proud of me. He emphatically said yes, as he laid his pecan-colored head on my chest, and I went through my mind 1,000 times to figure out what that could possibly mean, and every single example ended in motivation for me. So you may not be afraid to die, but I'm more afraid to let them down. And I found something to live for, which is a dangerous motive forever fueled. See, your thoughts may be involuntary, but my actions are very calculated. I was a man with a plan, but now I'm a dad with a decree, and you can't take that from me. My sons ain't raised by no coward, and they won't be one either. If this be the measure of a man, the yardstick gonna need way more meters. I take it too far, so they never come up short, because I found everything to live for.
Like you, sweetheart. That spider is a trickster in the best way. He can be anything he wants to be. Yes, he can outsmart anybody. Oh yes, the virus is where I am too. I don't know if Nancy can get rid of the virus, sweetheart. Nancy is a storyteller. Maybe you can write a story about him getting rid of the virus, like the story you wrote about your dog, Molly. I know, honey. Molly's in heaven. No, that's all right. You can show me your spider drawing later, Sonia. Sonia! Ugh, grandchildren. That one has the attention span of a flea. Can't blame her. My mind is jumping all over the place too. It's the times we're in. I'm trying to tell her a story about a Nancy, and she's left me FaceTiming with her dollhouse. Said she wants to show me her spider drawing. How long am I supposed to wait here? Sonia Marie. No doll people in this house. Look at all those little plastic dolls. She has one in every room and two in the kitchen. I guess she's trying to get me to tell her parents to buy her a puppy. Send money. Send money. Oh, spend money. Not one real letter. No one writes long letters anymore. My parents' generation wrote long letters to family and friends. You could read the writing too. Everybody had good penmanship. Beautiful, bold, standing tall, graciously curved letters. No meds. Now, I took my last pill yesterday. I called the pharmacy and they said they were shipped a week ago. Said I was to wait a few more days. I waited 7, then called again. That nice young man on the phone in Arizona tracked them. Said there was some kind of delay with the post office. Post office said the meds are in transit. I don't live in the wilderness. My meds come from Cambridge, Mass. I live in the next town over, in the same state. He said after 10 days from the shipping date, he would declare the meds lost and ship them again. Now, isn't that the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing again and expecting a different outcome. Meanwhile, he's trying to reach my doctor, get a prescription called into my local pharmacy for a few pills that tide me over. But it's Friday afternoon. Take it from me. Don't have any kind of medical need on a Friday afternoon or a Saturday or a Sunday, unless you are prepared to wait for the weekend shift at your local hospital. I had to call the doctor's office myself on Monday. First thing. Not getting those meds has convinced me I am going to risk my life, go out of my house in this pandemic. Oh, not to the doctor's office. I'm going to stand in the voting line. I am not trusting Mr. Trump's post office to get my vote to where it will be counted. I can't. I'll be voting early, in person. I'll need my seat on wheels, some water, mask, hand sanitizer, and I probably should take a book. I hope I don't pass out waiting in line, because only a Nancy knows when I'll get my meds. Sonia, you're back. Oh, look at that. It's a Nancy, and that's a nice face you gave him. You remember that a Nancy has a human face. Is that somebody you know? Me? Those are big earrings you put in my ears. Oh, yes, I like your drawing. It's beautiful. Now, are you ready to find out how a Nancy's son saved him from the fish? Of course he has daughters, but this story is about his sons. Sonia, could you hold your questions until I finish the story?
I hope everybody loved watching that piece. I loved it. When I first watched it, I said, okay, I'm going to go back and watch it again because it was so interesting, and her expression, all of her expressions through the entire piece was like you're in the room with her, or like you're the granddaughter and she's the grandmother, and you're doing this thing back and forth. But granddaughters are like that. They have the attention span of that much. I know, I have one. But that was beautiful.
Thank you.
I loved it. Why did you do a Nancy?
I've been trying to introduce my grandchildren to Black literature.
Beautiful.
And folk tales. That was important to me. And this piece actually is an example of writing during the times, something happening in the outside world that comes in and influences. We were in the middle of the pandemic, and people were isolated in their homes. And I think we were also having difficulty receiving our meds and things from, especially if you get them through the mail. We had Mr. Trump's post office, as the character says.
Yep, we did.
And things are kind of messed up, and people are isolated. And what this grandmother has is FaceTime, and that is how she communicates with her grandchild. And to go out is dangerous. That was before
it was dangerous,
or on the verge of getting the vaccine. So this was written before, but that's just one example of how what's happening in the world influences what I may or may not write. And also, I think we're in the play lab at TC Squared, and we may have been given a prompt to write. Some of the words that end up in the monologue may have been part of the prompt. I don't remember it at this time.
Oh, wow.
So,
I loved it.
Good. She did a great job, and I wish I could say her name now.
I
can't remember her name.
I can't either. Yeah. But I've seen her do other things.
She's an actor in the Boston area.
Yes, and I've seen her do other things. and I can't remember her name either. I want to kind of jump to a play that you did, I think it's called The Promised Land.
Oh, Going to the Promised Land.
Going to the Promised Land.
Ah, yes.
And I know that's around the migration.
Yes, the Great Migration.
The Great Migration, going from the south to the north. And that kind of made me think about my family coming here. My grandparents and my mom migrated from the south to the north. They came to Boston. I'm a first-generation Bostonian. And how did you come to write that? I mean, I know about the Great Migration, but how did you come to write that particular piece?
I don't remember the summer, but Harvard University offered a stipend to teachers in the public schools to study the Great Migration and develop curriculum for their schools. At that time, I was director of the Western Medco program.
Medco program, yes.
And I was just very interested in learning more. I actually came from Virginia, came north to attend college, ended up in Boston. Depending on where you lived in the South, some people came up the East Coast. Some out of the Delta went into Chicago, into the Midwest, into St. Louis. So I applied for the stipend, and I got the stipend and studied the Great Migration at Harvard University for one summer. 1 month, one solid month, every day, all day long.
Wow.
And we had to do a project. And since I didn't, I was more of an administrator of a program. I didn't actually go in to teach in a classroom unless I was invited in. So I decided to write a play about the Great Migration, and I called it Going to the Promised Land. And I took a lot that I had learned about why people were migrating, and I set the family on a farm in the South. They had children, they were farmers, they were trying to make a go of it. The farm next to theirs, the father had left to find work, so the mother and her daughter, they were isolated and they were left, and she was ill, she had tuberculosis. So I took a lot of what propelled people to leave the land and move and try to put it into this one family story. I also had the Night Riders, the KKK, basically, but the Night Riders, because there were, you know, there's a reign of terror in the South, so a lot of people left for that reason. And then also in the story, the young girl is dreaming of going to Harlem, where all the writers are. I mean, and the newspaper that her father gets, and it was, you know, very difficult to get a newspaper because, you know, Black people who were seen reading would be harassed. You know, so that was a no-no. So he had to keep his newspaper hidden. But she would take it and she would read it and she'd say, "Is there anything in there about Mr. Hughes or Zora Neale Hurston or all the people? I'm going to Harlem. I want to go to Harlem." So she dreams of going to Harlem. And then when the family actually does send her, she goes to live with an aunt in Harlem, and she meets all of these, you know, literary people that she's read about, and she and her aunt, they have a restaurant in Harlem, and there's dancing and music, and you know, that was Going to the Promised Land. The school produced it first. Western Middle School, it was there. And then later, Jackie Parker did it at Our Place Theater.
She did, and that one I didn't see.
Yeah, so that was going to the promised land. Someone, I don't remember where, but some theater in North Carolina or somewhere, they sent me my first check, $50, just to have the right to maybe produce it later.
Really?
And then later, I tried to find out what happened. I sent them the script, and nothing happened, ever. You know, so that's, you know, I was taking a chance, but it was exciting to get, I think that was the first time I was actually paid something. For a play, you know, even though it didn't happen. So that was going to the promised land.
Do you, from what I've listened to you talk about your different plays, do you think Roxbury, I'm talking about our community, and Hibernian Hall, do you think of it being, I want to say, like a Broadway? You know, we have Hibernian Hall. We're thinking about, it's been going around because I've been going to different community meetings about art and culture and what things we want to see happening around the area, especially in the Nubian Square area, just to have other places besides Hibernian Hall. We know we've got Jazz Urbane is still working on coming together. They plan to have a theater area within that restaurant where they can do theater production. Oh yeah, I went just before the pandemic hit. They had a community meeting in the space. And they talked about what they, matter of fact, I think I still have it. They gave us sketches of what it was going to look like, where they were going to have certain things. They were going to do art, and they were, and as I'm saying, they were talking about having a stage area where they could do productions. And what are your thoughts behind those types of things happening within our community?
Well, I think it's important. I think that as much space as possible to be used for arts and culture is extremely important to any community. I think we're rich in that we have the artists.
Yes.
And we need the space.
Yes.
We need funding,
Yeah,
of course,
we do.
because theater costs money. You don't want to not pay your artists.
Right. No, you
I
don't.
think,
You want to.
I don't care if it's 50 cents. It shows respect.
Thank
Because
you.
art is a challenge. It is
Okay.
not something you get up every morning and you know, like you drink your coffee. Art is not that easy. It is a challenge. It is something we love doing, but I think it's a sign of respect when
agree
you
with
pay
you.
your artists, and I think that's very important. So funding is key often,
Very much key.
and even when you have the space, you still need funding.
And which you're talking about that, and we're talking about that, and we talked about when Paul Goodnight and I were together last month. He and I talked about, he had mentioned it earlier down at Nubian Square when they were doing the murals down there, and he mentioned in a short talk that he was, that he was giving behind the mural that they had done of him, and he was saying how we need Black artists. We need to have an institute. We need an institute for all of our artists' work, where they can be housed and our young people can see them and, talk to those artists, be able to learn from them, and to be able to know that, we have a culture.
Yes.
We have an artistic culture. And the Non-Factory, which is on the corner of Washington Street and Melnia Cass Boulevard. I'd always been by that building forever, and I thought it was one name. Come to find out, it was the Non-Factory. And the, people are already talking about what they want to do. And there's always that process. And I was at a meeting last month with this month, with the BRA, the Roxbury Strategic Master Plan Committee, and a few artists. There were a number of people that were in this meeting. It was a Zoom meeting, but it was very good, to the point that I want to know why. That's me. That's the kind of person I am. When it comes to my artists and my culture, I want to know why. Why are you doing it this way? How come? What is the process? Because the first thing that comes out of the city's mouth is the process for this and the process for that. And I had to ask the young woman from the city, what is the process? And she proceeded to tell me about this process. I don't remember the process, but at the end she told me.
Was it complex?
Yes, very, because I said, you have a process, but is that process for struggling artists of color that are in the community that you're getting ready to take over, and are they going to be able to be able to have that space? Or, and I said, my bad word, I said, or you're going to bus them in from out of the city. You know, because you feel like if you're talking about, well, we're going to have blinking lights and water things around this great big hole, this great big huge glass museum sitting right in the middle of Roxbury, in the middle of Nubian Square, and but there's going to be space for artists. What is the price for those space for those artists, and who are those artists? You claim you're doing it for the artists that need it within the community, but are you really? And that's always my question.
I think those are vital questions to ask, and to ask in every room you have access to.
Yes.
When you have a space at the table, I'd say the room of power, whatever the power group might be, it's very important to ask the question and to keep asking the question, and until you have your satisfactory answer. I think that's one of the reasons that I am very grateful to Hibernian Hall.
Oh, I know you
that
are. I am too.
Madison Park Development Corporation supports Hibernian Hall and its arts and culture programming. They have the Playwright in Residence program. I think I'm maybe the third or fourth
I think
Playwright in Residence that they've had. And I am just very grateful to have the opportunity to have my work be there, and also to be given the support to make my work the best it can be. Because this is the community that I write for.
Thank you. And this is the community that I do this for. And you're talking about writing. I think I mentioned it earlier. I mentioned it to you when we were at Hibernian Hall Saturday. I, for the past 26 years, have published an art and culture and news publication. I went to a 2-day seminar at ACT Roxbury when Candelaria Silva first started. Okay, so you know where I'm going
my
with
friend.
this.
I was there. I was there.
Okay.
I was there.
And I went for 2 days, and we talked about it, and I told her what I wanted to do. I said, when media comes into our community and they see our work, our culture and our artworks, they don't write in our voice. And that's what made me start my publication, because I am a Black woman in Roxbury, born and raised here, I feel like my voice is our voice.
Yes.
When I write from that voice.
Yes.
And I wanted, when I told her about this, and we talked about it for over an hour a couple of times, and she said, so, go ahead and do it. And
Yes.
I started my first issue in 1998. Haven't done it in a while. It stopped in 2006, but I started a website.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm writing, and the publication is online now.
Mm-hmm. Great. I think that's terrific. It's funny how Candelaria Silva Collins has had such an influence on all of us.
Many people.
I started at Roxbury with the playwriting workshops that she
was
sponsored.
Doing, yes.
She brought people in, Ed Bullens,
Yep.
Lydia Diamond, Kate Snodgrass,
Yep.
all of them were there doing workshops for people in the community.
And I thought that was
playwriting.
beautiful. Yes. Yeah. It's just, I would like you to do a couple of more readings. The one that I want before we close out is the one you did on Malcolm X.
Ah, you know what? That's in the other notebook.
Oh.
It's over there, though. Can I go offset and get it?
Well, if I'd like to, can we take a break? We'd like to take a break for about 30-second break, and we'll be right back. I'm Elaine Hall-Corbin, your host. You have been watching and are still watching Artists of Color. My guest today is Mary McCullough, and we're going to take a short break.
As a scientist, I know by the time she takes her first breath, 9 billion more tons of carbon pollution will be in the air. When she takes her first steps, wildfires will have burned millions more acres she could have explored. By the time a child born today goes to college, it may be too late to leave them the world we promised. Our window to act on climate change is like watching them grow up. We blink and we miss it.
Thank you. I'm Elaine Hall-Corbin, your host, and we are here back at Artists of Color. And my guest, Mary McCullough, is going to read another poem of hers that I love.
This is from the Roxbury Literary Annual from the winter of 2001. Looking for Malcolm at 72 Dale. And the brown-faced woman flicks her heart-piercing stare meant to chase me away, as if I'm gonna steal the house and the yard with my camera. She goes inside, but I cross the street to a just-in-case kind of distance, catch the beat of the boy chasing manhood, his rake-like comb, starched shirt, swish when arms push in. Hear the sound growing boy feet make, strutting to the beat, to the beat, to the Dale Street beat. And Dale Street girls jump rope to their own Dale Street rhyme. 72 Dale, turn around, not for sale, touch the ground, Dudley, Warren, and Dale, not for sale. Crisscross to the city, crisscross to the country, crisscross to white folks, not for sale. To black folks, you the beat? Mind your business, it's not for sale. Mind your history, it's not for sale. Keep it, jump back, jump back, jump back. Can you jump back? Can you? And 72 Dale tells what it knows. Malcolm has gone fishing. His bait, debate. Malcolm has gone fishing. To tell it like it is, Malcolm has gone fishing. Look for him on corners, a man clean in his suit, pressed white shirt, tie never askew, reclaiming and renaming lost friends hiding behind roles. Malcolm has gone fishing. For you're familiar, your stranger, for himself in Mecca, in Africa, in Asia. Taken his seat at the table, Malcolm has gone fishing, tied slippery truths to the end of his line, knowing it is up to you and to me whether all will rise. Malcolm has gone fishing, and like prophets of old, he is walking about.
I love it. Both of those, I just got mesmerized because I learned, I love that, how you talk about one of ours. You know, the man was and still is part of the community,
Yes.
you know, and people still talk about him. Those that are, you know, those that are my age, your age, the ones that don't know are the young ones that don't.
Mm-hmm.
And they need to know this. And for you to write, you know, that type of poetry that gives history and talks about our leaders, that's an important thing. You know, that's really an important thing.
I wrote that a while ago, but I had gone to 72 Dale, and I took my camera because I wanted to take a picture. I wanted to get a feel.
Yep.
I wanted to imagine him there in that house.
Yes.
And this, you know, this poem is what came out of that time that I spent standing there. Wow. So another way that writing happens.
Yes.
You know.
It was like, to me, you just said, you know, just standing there and the poem came to you. To me, it was like he was your muse. And he was telling you what to write.
And I think, again, you know, you use your imagination, you use what you've learned of history.
Yes.
You're always learning. And I think if you just wait and have a moment,
It will
you know, and just find peace and listen, I think. Listen. Often, I think the words will come, you know. We're all writers. We're all poets.
Yes.
You know.
It's just like you said, the peace and to wait a minute and be still.
And Black folks are all storytellers.
Yes. Yes, they are.
They
Aren't
are
we all?
storytellers, yes.
Mary McCullough, thank you for being with me today. I am so happy that you came.
It's my pleasure.
Thank you. Again, I am Elaine Hall-Corbin, your host, and this has been Artist of Color. And we'll be back again next month. So be with us on the last Friday in October, where my guest will be Ashley Gordon from Castles of Our Skins. Have a great day.